So today we are going to talk about Gestalt psychology, and this is divided into part 1 and part 2. The part 2 video will be going in depth of how can you apply Gestalt psychology in your therapy practice. But if you're someone who's just looking to study Gestalt psychology, part 1, this video would be helpful for you. I am Psychologist Rishmita here, and I hope this helps. So let's start with the founders of Gestalt psychology. One of them is Max Wertheimer, then there is Kurt Koffka, then there is Wolfgang Köhler, and the last one is Fritz Perls. Now, all of them have contributed in their own ways. Gestalt psychology, the word Gestalt is a German term that means shape, form, or whole. In psychology, Gestalt refers to the idea that the mind perceives objects, experiences, and people as a complete, unified wholes and not just some collection of parts. It doesn't break things to understand the whole part, it rather sees the whole experience or the whole situation as one and then starts to perceive and understand the situation way furthermore. So, in simple terms, it's not just the pieces, it's the whole pattern. It's not about what happened, but how it feels as a whole. The whole experience has a meaning that's more than just its part details or the smaller details. For example, if you hear a melody, you don't just hear individual notes of that music, you hear a complete tone. The overall tune is the gestalt, the meaningful whole. Now, to understand this further, one of the complete statement that defines gestalt is the whole is greater than sum of its parts. What it means is it emphasizes on how we perceive objects as whole patterns rather than just individual components. Let's understand it further. Now, when you see a mobile phone, you see it as a complete whole structure. Versus if I give you some parts of the mobile and tell you that use it as a phone now, right? What is more useful is a meaningful wholeness of it as a mobile phone, which increases its utilization. Another example is if I'm going to tell you these are the vegetables, just eat them as it is. Or are you going to see a pizza and feel it as a whole, that this is a complete object that I can have and feel complete about it? So, Gestalt psychology talks about the whole is greater than sum of its parts. The mobile as a whole is meaningful, but if I give you some individual components and ask you to use it as a mobile phone, it starts to become difficult. So, Gestalt psychology talks about the whole is greater than sum of its parts. Now, let's see further that when we give you a circle, you're not going to sit and divide it into different parts unless it's a needed task for you. So the mind starts to perceive as a circle and not as triangles or the quarter parts of a circle. Now let's get into the 6 laws of perception that are given under Gestalt psychology. The laws of perception are one of the cognitive theories or therapies that helps you to understand how these principles explain how humans organize and interpret sensory information, that is your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your touch and the smell, how they organize this information to understand the world around you. It emphasizes how we perceive objects as whole patterns rather than just individual components. The 6 laws are: the first one is Prägnanz, second is similarity, third is proximity, fourth is continuity, fifth is closure, and sixth is figure ground. Now let's explore one by one. The first one is law of Prägnanz or the law of simplicity. The one liner that explains it really well is the mind seeks the simplest, most stable form. So we naturally organize confusing, complex visuals into the simplest possible patterns or shapes. Our brain wants to avoid ambiguity. It chooses clarity and structure over chaos. So if you see a circle and you see these gaps, how does your mind perceive it? It perceives it, even if there's a gap, it perceives it as this is a full circle. So our minds are used to fill in the gaps. Why? Just to keep it simple and whole. The next is the law of similarity. One statement that allows you to understand this law is things that look similar are perceived as belonging together. Now look at these images on the left. If you see, if there is a boy, boy, if there's a girl, girl, it is automatically put as this is a boy category and this is a girl category. If we see colors, the reds, the oranges, the yellows, all are being placed under, they are similar to each other. So more they are similar to each other, the more we perceive them as belonging together. Right? If we see two kids with their mother, we are very easily to assume that she must be the mother of the two kids who have the similarity of belonging to one family. Elements that look similar in shape, color, size are perceived as part of the same group. Our minds naturally group similar elements in appearance, sound, meaning into one unit. This helps us to make sense of chaos, but also shapes how we perceive people, relationships, and even our emotions. Now, this will be further explored when we are going to do Gestalt psychology in therapy. How can we use that as a therapist? The third law is law of proximity. Things that are close together are seen as related to each other. A simple way of understanding is if a boy and girl are standing next to each other, it's easily assumed that maybe that they are in love or they are in a relationship or they are from someone having a close bond with each other. So the proximity makes the mind think that these things are related to each other. If a group of people are sitting together, that means they are one together. Even if they might be having differences, conflicts in a family, which is very common, the law of proximity says anything that are close together are often seen as related to each other. Our brain groups elements that are physically near each other, even if they are unrelated. We assume closeness, which is equal to connection. Dots arranged closely in clusters are seen as separate groups even without borders. You don't see any border here. You don't see a line that divides these group of dots that are given here. But it's very easily assumed that this must be one group and this must be the other group. The fourth law is law of continuity or good continuation. What is a simple way of understanding is the mind follows the smoothest path. What does this mean? That whatever is given, it will always continue in that same direction. So if I allow you to continue, you'll assume that there are green dots all over here and there are blue dots all over here. So the law of continuity says a line that curves smoothly will be seen as single one line, not broken parts. Right? So if you see this line, it's broken, but you'll assume it to be one line together and continuing irrespective of the gap. When we see lines, shapes, or patterns, our mind naturally continues them, even if they shift direction or break slightly. It still continues into a smooth path. We expect fluidity and consistency in how things unfold, and this is the law of continuity. Next is law of closure. Our brain fills in missing to complete shapes or patterns. Example, seeing a full circle even if parts are missing. So the law of closure says even if the closure is not done, the mind perceives or looks to complete the pattern or shape in front of us. So if we see this image, our mind will automatically want to fill in the gaps. When parts of an image are missing, our mind instinctively fills the gaps to create a whole. We seek completion even if the picture is incomplete. We would try to make a bridge. We would try to think how this could be a closure, a completion for us in our mind, in our senses to understand the world around us better. Right? So if a puzzle is missing, what would our brain do is try to fill in that gap. And the sixth law is the law of figure and ground. the mind separates what it focuses on figure from the background. Now, this is important to understand that we instinctively organize our visual input into two parts. First is the figure, second is the ground. So, figure, what is figure here? The figure that stands out and gets our attention. And the ground is the background that we tend to overlook or we don't give much attention. So, if you look at this image, if you see it carefully, you either will see a vase or you're going to see two faces. In the same image here, your brain is choosing which one is a main figure for it. Is the main figure the vase or the main figure is two faces? So if I choose the vase, this becomes your ground, and if I choose two faces, this becomes your ground, right? So this is the figure, then this is the ground, and if this is the figure for me, this is the ground. Our brain's aim is to basically avoid any ambiguity. It wants to have clarity. It doesn't want chaos. So it looks for structure. I hope this helps. Thank you. And if there is any topic that you would like me to cover, please let me know.